How are we going to buy it? We're going to have to go into town, and there's going to be a whole big thing. and totally missed the invitation.
Yeah.
And I laugh because how many times have I been in that place where I get so caught up in the details. I miss the forest because of the trees.
Yeah.
Like I'm just so focused in on, okay, how is this going to get done? And when are we going to calendar it? And who's going to do it? And how are we going to advertise it or share this event?
Welcome to the Laughing Mystics, an unorthodox journey through the liturgical year with Laura Lewis Barr and Marcy Maderi.
Well, welcome. Welcome back.
Yay.
Yes. Laura, I got to talk about Julian of Norwich and give a little talk on her, which made me do a little more research. And so we had mentioned Julian in a previous episode, so I thought,
nice.
I'd just like to bring her back a little before we start the actual readings for the weekend. Julian of Norwich, which we know was an anchorite, and lived between 1342 and 1416. And she lived in Norwich, England. Her little enclosure was attached to the church Julian of Norwich. That's how she got her name. We don't know her real name. But I found out the life of an anchorite isn't as devastating as I initially thought.
Oh, okay.
So anchorites would not live an austere life. They would live a simple life. Julian, and anchorites generally, they might have several rooms, not just one.
Really?
Yes. And there's the window to the church where they can, hear Mass, see Mass, the squint, it was called. And then the window to the world. And there might be even an enclosure so people on the other side could sit down and be relaxed.
Okay.
And it was understood that the anchorite would act as a spiritual counselor, that was part of her ministry.
Yeah.
Now, I'm thinking there had to be a door, but because anchorites had maids, Julian had a maid named Alice. That's not bad. To cook and clean for her, so she didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
And she probably had a cat for companionship and for the mice and rats. And that anchorites could go into the courtyard of the church, which would be enclosed. And if there was a nearby garden, in that enclosure, they could go to the garden, hence the door. So it wasn't really that bad of an existence. And they ate what people ate of the day at the time, not like this super meager moment. And in my reading, it was really an opportunity for a woman to have a room of her own. Because everything else was crowded and noisy and and you'd have a lot of children and be married. That was the normal thing for a woman. And Julian, she could be quiet and read and write and sit and meditate. And of course, she would talk to people as she listened to them as the spiritual counselor. She was nourished through Mass and other readings. She didn't have to worry about any temporal activities. Doesn't it sound so much more appealing?
Yeah. The other version of she's walled into the room where she's going to die. Yeah, and that she's just in this room the whole time. You'd go stark raving mad. Yes. And now we have something that's balanced and beautiful. Nice. I love that.
And when she was 30 and a half years, she indicated she was 30 years old and a half. I think that's funny. She had this mystical moment. It lasted about 24 hours where she had all these visions and was close to death and then came back And then she wrote a short version of this mystical experience. And then she wrote, 20 years later, rewrote the same book, but was 2.5 times longer.
Yeah.
Because she had 20 years of listening to people, 20 years of meditating on what she experienced. And then she really opened it up and talked a lot about Mother God.
Wow.
Not Mother of God, Mary, but actually Mother God.
Mm.
And she referred to Mother God as that second part of the Trinity, or what we think of as Christ. And that Christ mothered us and birthed a new way of being. She even went, and I think this is brilliant, never thought of this, when the guard cuts Jesus' side when he's on the cross, and it says water and blood flowed out. Well, when women have a child,
oh wow,
water and blood flows out.
Oh.
And she connects that wound, that interior tender place, to the womb of a woman, that interior tender place.
I really am happy you told me this, because I have admired Julianne's writings, but it does my heart good to know that she wasn't living a brutal life.
No.
I mean, it was all brutal and the plague was going on then, but it was as good as maybe it could get.
Yeah, like she had some respite from the brutality of society.
Yeah.
In this enclosure, it was her safe space.
And so we all need that safe space to create that anchorite space in our life, more now than ever, right? To carve it out of our schedule, to carve it out of our physical location, find that quiet place.
And another interesting thing is that she just talks about God as love. God is all loving. God is not wrathful. God is compassionate and caring. And that makes me think of Elia Delio and Teilhard de Chardin, what we were talking about last time, about love being the through line. That is her consistent experience. And that's what she saw in her visions.
We talked a lot about love in a recent episode, and I don't know, Elia, about this, but I get a little nervous because we're not bringing in shadow into it at all in this description. And so in the wholeness of God and in the wholeness of me, there is also something that maybe, I don't know, that maybe I can judge as not good, or wholeness requires all of it. Does that make sense?
Well, that makes sense for me, right? In myself. I'm not sure if I've ever thought about God having a shadow, though.
Oh, yeah, that's
God
Jung.
is all bright and radiant and all love. So interesting.
Yeah, very, very interesting, because I have been doing a little research on the letters that Jung and Victor White, who was a priest, they shared letters for years. And Jung really wanted to interact with a theologian. He said, I'm not a theologian. I just am looking at the psyche and the unconscious. But when Jung got to the point of talking about the shadow of God, their relationship ended in a very horrible, sad way. Like they couldn't find a way to talk anymore. So
it's tragic.
Yeah, I'm glad that won't happen with us. I mean, it is a little shocking when I first heard this idea of God having a shadow. And I've alluded to it in the past that Jung said Old Testament God learned things and became, through working with Job, and then Jesus became a different God. And I do know that Ilya talks about the evolution of God. So, yeah.
Yes, it made me think of that too.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting, isn't it? How each person images God and understands the divine.
Yeah.
And it is pretty individual.
Yeah, I think the reason I spoke up, and it's a Jungian thing, is that the danger of an all-good God is that I split from my own darkness. I mean, I don't have to really determine what God is. But if God is the model and God is all good, then I must be all good. Then I repress the shadow, and that gets me into trouble.
I gotcha.
So Jung said, the split between God and the devil is a problem. Boy, I'm sure we will circle back to this subject as an important one.
Right, yeah. I could spend a long time talking to you about this, but I suppose we should talk about the body and blood of Jesus.
I think just hearing the name of this Sunday kind of stopped me in my tracks. And it's interesting because it felt like, okay, we got a theological theme, and I know it's mystical. It is mystical, but it stopped me. And I said to myself, okay, I'm going to go in with really nothing. Like I had a whole bunch, I had so much resistance. And I think that one more thing I want to say about it, as I prayed and went, okay, I'm so stuck. I feel so stuck. I don't even want to read the readings. Like I sort of, I looked at the readings and went, oh gosh, I'm so stuck. It reminds me of this idea of, well, Jung called it the third thing, when you're stuck between two opposites, and being patient with that, being willing to just not know. And then the third arises, the spirit arises, the answer arises. When I did theater, I saw it all the time. I would be staging a part of a play, and I go, I'm totally stuck. I have no idea how to solve this technical problem. And then the answer comes. So I'm hoping that in the sound booth, as I sit with the not knowing in a deeper way than usual, I'm always in that place, but in a deeper way, that the third arises. A reading from the book of Genesis. In those days, Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought out bread and wine, and being a priest of God Most High, he blessed Abram with these words, Blessed be Abram by God Most High, the creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who delivered your foes into your hand. Then Abram gave him 1/10 of everything.
Well, Laura's making a face over there.
No, I glanced at this reading. Both times I saw it, the last line, suddenly I'm on an infomercial in a born-again evangelical TV show talking about tithing.
Right. Well, it is where tithing comes from, right? That 10th.
Yeah.
And it is a consistent theme throughout the Old Testament. I did a little bit of reading on this. It just, first of all, to notice that it's Abram. It's not even Abraham yet. So this is early in Genesis, before Abram gets a name change.
Okay.
So it's very foundational. So Melchizedek, the king of Salem, which means peace, that word. And today, this is the place we call Jerusalem.
Oh, okay.
So we're in, Jerusalem before it was Jerusalem, bringing out bread and wine, which is ordinary. Like that's just like the normal stuff. And blessing it and sharing it. So it's a foreshadowing of what Jesus will do in the Last Supper. And it grounds the ritual that Jesus offers to us.
I got nothing.
So here, let me ask you a question, Laura.
Okay.
What's a memory you have of bread, of sharing bread or making bread?
I used to bake bread.
Oh, did you?
I love it too much. I cannot have it fresh bread in the house. It's like crack to me. But I do think baking bread, just like gardening, it's a very special activity to let bread rise and to smell the fresh wheat flour. And yeah. Thank you for asking that, because I do suddenly get filled with the joy of the senses of it that the word didn't do for me. And so now you bring me into the mystery of bread. I've always thought we'll go to Panera and get a really nice loaf of sourdough and think, oh, maybe sourdough is a bad example, but just a great loaf of bread, and go, okay, this is flour, water, yeast, and this bread is much better than another bread that's water, flour, yeast. Why? And it's a very magical, mysterious, like winemaking.
Something, I also bake bread from yeast, and something I was told and believe is that in the kneading of the bread, the baker's essence, the oils from themselves, enter into the bread, and that's why different breads taste differently.
Whoa.
And when bread is made in a factory, you don't have that essence of a human kneaded into the bread.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah. And so like Corpus Christi, the body of Christ, that bread, I associate that, that Christ is woven, is kneaded, that essence is in that bread. So I've got a great mixer at home.
Yeah.
My children and Ed bought me that beautiful mixer for Christmas one year. It was like the best, because I've been wanting one forever, and they're so expensive. And so I, will mix the bread dough in there, but I always take it out and knead it with my own hands for a time. So my love, my essence, the oils from my body can be infused into that loaf.
I think bread and wine, I'm not an expert at all, but I think they're probably central to most religious traditions. I know wine, certainly for the ancient Greeks, and a lot of what I study kind of goes back to them, and Dionysus and wine and the intoxicating nature of wine. And, when I first went to my first Seder, I was like, wow, they were all drunk. Because that's a lot of wine.
It's right, 4 glasses of wine, right? No wonder the disciples fell asleep in the Garden of Gethsemane.
But that the use of wine, or we could say other substances, to change consciousness as a way to reflect on God, and that is central to the Catholic Church anyway. I know there are some Protestant churches that don't think that way.
But it is, right, I'm grateful for wine because it is the fermenting or the fermentation, that changing, that transformation that grape juice doesn't do, that it invites me into personal transformation. Okay, how about the second reading? This is from 1 Corinthians, and it is the same reading that we read for Holy Thursday. So, sisters and brothers, I received from the Lord what I also handed on to you, that the Lord Jesus, on the night he was handed over, took bread, and after he had given thanks, broke it and said, "This is my body, that is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way, he also took the cup after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant in my blood. Do this, as often as you drink it, in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink this cup, you proclaim the death of the Lord until he comes." It's the ordinary. The ordinary is the portal into the heart of God. Those ordinary things like bread and wine, during this time are the portal into the heart of God. And so what are those ordinary things in my life that bring me closer to God? Listeners, that's a question for you to consider.
That's really nice. Yeah. Arugula. Fresh arugula from my garden. That brings me to God.
I love it. Okay, so this bit of poetry is from The Blessing of Bread by Lynn Unger. Have I read this before?
No.
Okay. So this is the middle section. I do not believe in palmistry, but I study my hands for promises when no one is around. I do not believe in magic, but I probe the dough for signs of life, willing it to rise, to take shape, to feed me. I do not believe in palmistry and magic, but in something happens in kneading dough or massaging flesh. An imprint of the hand remains on the bodies we have touched.
Okay.
So that lovely connection with bread, that folding in and folding in across the palms. And then the last poem is a part of something I wrote. I wrote this poem called Learning Slowly, about slowing down, which I learned slowly about. Still trying to struggle with it. I have developed some tricks to help me slow down. Feel the breath in my lungs. Stare out the window at trees. Think. Bake bread and make soup. Try not to notice how many times I am lapped in the swimming pool or on the track. Take a puzzle piece in my hand. Notice all the details, colors, and patterns. Appreciate the shape of it. Mindfully determines where it fits. A legend has it that God walks the earth at the comfortable pace of 3 miles an hour in order to be fully present. On a good day, perhaps I can do the same.
Wow.
So that bread, how it slows us down, how it moves us and touches us, the eating and the making of the bread, and that community. And I think for me, that's all tied together with this Corpus Christi, with the body and blood of Christ. That community, that slowing down, that being one with, being nourished by.
Gospel according to Luke. Jesus spoke to the crowds about the kingdom of God, and he healed those who needed to be cured. As the day was drawing to a close, the 12 approached him and said, "Dismiss the crowd so that they can go to the surrounding villages and farms and find lodging and provisions, for we are in a deserted place here." He said to them, "Give them some food yourselves." They replied, "5 loaves and 2 fish are all we have, unless we ourselves go and buy food for all these people." Now the men there numbered about 5,000. Then he said to his disciples, "Have them sit down in groups of about 50. They did so, and made them all sit down. Then taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he said the blessing over them, broke them, and gave them to the disciples to set before the crowd. They all ate and were satisfied, and when the leftover fragments were picked up, they filled 12 wicker baskets.
I love this reading.
Yeah, tell me why.
Well, because it works on 2 different planes really well. First, that mystical plane of abundance and how more was just created, and also the very practical plane of that chances are people brought food with them.
Yes.
And that, it's the miracle of sharing.
Yes.
And that people all brought things out and to share. I like it that there were 12 wicker baskets, because 12 isn't an accident.
Yeah.
That number, that completion of a people, fullness of a people happens when we share.
Yeah.
And when we eat together.
It goes back to the discussion last week about my fantasy of a new kind of culture, a new kind of world that Jesus calls us to, that we can trust that if we put our guard down, there is goodness in each of us, and that we can share. And I think this is the biggest block for me personally, and for the church in general, is the capitalist system that we are swimming in. I think it is the biggest problem. And there's a book out about church and suburbs, and how the suburban mindset just kills. I'll have to look into, find out what that book is. Death by Suburb or something. And, it's very critical of when you and I have talked about how affluence or comfort can really get in the way. I like it.
Right. But then we lose the reality that we need each other. We can live in the illusion that I can do this all for myself.
Yeah. And I have to do it all for myself, and I should do it all for myself. Here's a poem called "Take One Bite." I watch the ripe mulberry bush satisfy the robin, the squirrel, and then orioles. Each take their visit, grabbing the red, ripe orbs, but then they leave the rest. They never snatch a few extra berries, just in case. They're not like me, plucking every luscious strawberry to store in refrigerated plastic. I'm not like the trusting chipmunk who simply takes a bite. As Jesus said, they trust tomorrow. Can you imagine eating what you found, then scampering on tree trunks or writing poems all day long? Then, when hungry again, savoring the freshest seeds? Life would not be divided into yearnings, fear, or dread-filled duty. Our days would simply be one long song.
Wow, what a great poem, Laura.
Thank you.
It's so beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'm always working on this same theme of trust and trusting that there's abundance.
I mean, it's tricky.
Ah.
Tricky. Yeah.
Have you solved the trick?
No. I've come to a point in my life where it's less about solving a problem and more about being with the problem.
Very Jungian answer.
Oh, wow. I had no
Totally.
idea.
Yeah.
But just to kind of sit with the question, sit with the problem.
Yeah.
And let it, resolve as it does. And just notice.
Yeah. Holding the tension of the opposites within myself. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So this is from the book The Gift by Lewis Hyde. So amazing. Here he says, I described the motion of the gift earlier in this chapter by saying that gifts are always used, consumed, or eaten. It's the paradox of gift exchanged. When the gift is used, it is not used up. Quite the opposite. The gift that is not used will be lost, while the one that is passed along remains abundant. What is given away feeds again and again, while what is kept feeds only once and leaves us hungry.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's a whole book on gift exchange, gift economies, and one way to really bring it home is imagine you make dinner for your loved one. You make dinner for Ed. And Ed says, what do I owe you for that? I mean, if he seriously says, how much is this going to cost me? $20, $30? What do you want for this meal? There's something horrible in that, right? You take a gift, a loving gift, and turn it into a transaction. So this idea of giving away, and of course, for Corpus Christi, that's what we got. We have a gift that is never used up. It's a mystery.
That just always makes me laugh are the disciples. They're just so dumb. they're just like clueless.
That's
clueless.
True. That's true.
And it just makes me laugh every time. Make them go away. So, because we don't have anything for them here, and they've got to figure it out. And then Jesus says, "Give them some food yourselves. Give them some food yourselves. Give them from what you have." And they're like, "Oh, well, we only got 5 loaves and 2 fish. How are we going to buy it? We're going to have to go into town, and that's going to be a whole big thing." and totally miss the invitation.
Yeah.
And I laugh because how many times have I been in that place where I get so caught up in the details. I miss the forest because of the trees.
Yeah.
Like I'm just so focused in on, okay, how is this going to get done? And when are we going to calendar it? And who's going to do it? And how are we going to advertise it or share this event? That I forget, Jesus's real request. Marcy, give them some food from yourself.
Yeah.
Open yourself up and feed them from your heart, right? Which is Corpus Christi, Christ, God feeding us from God's heart. Laura, how do you feed others from yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll answer it also with this idea that going back to church felt like a kind of and I've said this before, it felt like an incredible thing, like Jesus saying, throw your line on the other side of the boat, or Jesus saying, feed the 5,000 with what you have. It feels like, what? And this podcast can feel like, what? What are you doing, Laura? What? I feel very much like I have so much desire to share my love of the mystery, my passion for it, that, I mean, this podcast has kind of taken over my life, and I'm watching it happen going, oh, okay, this is interesting. And it does feel like there's a spirit that I'm attending to as I do it. Like it's a calling that I can't explain logically, in the same way that asking somebody to feed a crowd with just a few fish doesn't make any sense, but say yes. You know, Marcy's amazing because she has this thing about always saying yes, which gets her into a lot of trouble.
Amen. It is definitely problematic at times.
How about you?
How do I feed the world?
Yeah.
I think through listening.
Yeah.
I love to listen and to be with people as they journey. And I think that's something I can offer. So, listeners, thank you for this time, this gift of time that you share with us. And we invite you to follow us and to put a comment in, to rate us, and to let yourself wonder in the questions that we discuss.
Yay! See you next week.
See ya.